One of the things that I'm uncomfortable about is when people's caring seems to be mediated by distance. They'll care about people who they know or they can see, but they don't care so much about people who they can't see or hear or talk to. That's the sort of feeble excuse that's led to acceptance of a lot of atrocities in the past. Not always, but in many cases. So, for example, with the abuses in Bosnia and Herzegovina, it took a lot of journalism with photos and reports and human stories before other people started to feel that they had a human connection. I don't see it as being natural. I think it's unnatural to not react to stories or reports of suffering. There may be a lack of imagination, so if the report is limited, then that may not trigger the emotional response, and in that case the reporting's at fault. But if in many cases the reporting seems to be okay to me, but people still don't seem to care. It's even more disturbing when that excuse of distance is actually a cover for racism. Bosnia happened at around about the same time or just before the genocide in Rwanda. At that time there were a lot of other things that had happened, and key players were reluctant to put people from their nation at risk. But I still think, even this day, that there was an element of racism in the non-response of some of the nations. That doesn't apply to key people in the UN who were from Africa themselves, like Kofi Annan. And the people on the ground there were obviously seeing what was going on, and they were desperately trying to do something constructive, whether they were from Africa or outside Africa. But at the moment, we have got increasing revelations of the massacres and other abuses that have happened in Tigray. We have ongoing violent repression of protests against the apparently rigged election result in Uganda. We have ongoing problems in the Central African Republic and the Democratic Republic of Congo. We have more disturbance in places like Mali, and it just doesn't seem to make the mainstream press, not here in Australia at any rate. There's been some good reports in some of the French press, and I use them as a source for what's happening in, for example, Mali. But with other organisations, it's just not as effective. And it's a flaw. It's a setback from a spiritual point of view. We should not have these sorts of arbitrary limits on our caring. I think people feel that caring is something that's limited and it has to be doled out a little bit at a time. But that's not true. You can get caring fatigue if you, or compassion fatigue it's called, if you get a little bit of burnout from trying to do too much. That's more related to the level of activity that you do. The main thing is, from my point of view, the caring should still be there. Even if you're not sure what you can do or whether it's going to be effective, the caring should still be there if you are going to be a decent, competent human being. So moted be.